The city was alive, as it always was. Washington, D.C. glowed under the soft light of a spring morning. The streets hummed with the ambition of professionals and dreamers alike, each chasing their own vision of success. Among them were Ethan Carter and Maya Hart, a couple whose love once felt like a masterpiece. Ethan Carter was a name synonymous with innovation. At 34, he had built a multi-million-dollar tech empire, transforming ideas into reality with a single-minded determination. To the world, he was a genius, a visionary. To Maya, however, he was once just a man who danced with her under the rain without a care in the world. Maya Hart, 30, was a celebrated art curator known for her ability to unearth raw emotional talent in the most unexpected places. She lived for color, spontaneity, and the beauty of imperfection. Everything that Ethan's meticulously planned world lacked. Their love was born from contrasts, thriving on the harmony they once created between his structured ambition and her boundless creativity. But now, years after their first chance meeting, that harmony had faded. Though they shared the same home, they lived in separate worlds. Ethan was consumed by deadlines, board meetings, and market shares. Maya felt invisible, her voice drowned out by the relentless hum of his empire. The question loomed, heavy and unresolved. What happens when two people who once built a love story that felt like art find themselves struggling to hold it together? Years ago, when their love was just beginning to blossom, Ethan and Maya shared a story that felt like a dream. They met on a spring morning at a small cafe in Georgetown. Ethan, a final-year MBA student, was rushing to prepare for a major presentation. Dressed in a sharp suit with a leather briefcase in hand, he looked every bit the focused businessman. Maya, a freelance artist, walked in wearing a flowing marigold dress, her smile lighting up the room. They collided at the entrance, causing Maya's phone to tumble to the ground. "I'm so sorry," they both said in unison, bending down to retrieve the phone. Their eyes met. Ethan was captivated by the warmth in Maya's gaze, while Maya saw a mix of ambition and gentleness in his. From that day on, they became inseparable. Ethan, who thrived on carefully crafted schedules, discovered a sense of freedom he never knew he needed. Maya taught him to find joy in the little moments, sitting under cherry blossoms, sharing late-night conversations, or dancing in the rain. One evening, while walking through the National Mall, a sudden rainstorm caught them off guard. Instead of seeking shelter, Maya pulled Ethan into her arms and said, "Let's dance, Ethan. Not everything in life needs a plan." And so they danced, ignoring the curious stares of passers-by. For Ethan, it was the moment he realized Maya had brought color to his black and white world. Their love grew in moments like these, simple but profound, light yet meaningful. Ethan shared his dream of building a tech company that could change the world, while Maya spoke of her desire to bring art closer to the community. They believed their love could merge their different worlds into one beautiful masterpiece. As time passed, Ethan and Maya's love no longer felt like the masterpiece it once was. They were married and living together, but the distance between them grew wider with each passing day. Ethan, now the CEO of a thriving tech company, was consumed by meetings, expansion projects, and ambitious goals. He believed he was building a better future for them both. Yet, in doing so, he failed to see how he was pushing Maya further away. Maya continued to pursue her career in art, but she felt invisible in her own home. She tried to reconnect with Ethan through small, meaningful gestures, romantic dinners, paintings capturing their happiest memories. But Ethan's work always took precedence, leaving her efforts unnoticed. One evening, Maya spent the entire day preparing a special dinner to celebrate their wedding anniversary. She reserved a table at the restaurant where they had celebrated their engagement, requested the same songs that had played that night, and wore the dress Ethan once said was his favorite. But Ethan arrived late, distracted by his phone and the urgency of his business. "I'm sorry," he said hastily, placing his phone on the table. "The company has a huge opportunity right now, and you know, things like this don't happen twice." Maya smiled, but inside, she felt something breaking. That night, she walked into Ethan's office and stared at the paintings she had hung on the walls, pieces that told the story of their love. Ethan had never truly noticed them. It was then that Maya realized She had been fighting for their marriage alone. Without a word, she began planning her departure. She wrote a letter, left her wedding ring on the easel in her studio, along with one final painting, a depiction of two paths diverging, each leading in a separate direction. Maya understood that sometimes love isn't about holding on, it's about learning to let go so both can find themselves again. When Ethan returned home that evening, he found the apartment empty. In Maya's studio, her wedding ring rested on the easel beside a final painting. The image depicted two paths diverging, each leading in separate directions. On his desk, there was a letter from Maya. In the letter, Maya wrote, "Ethan, I've tried everything to keep our love alive, but love cannot survive when only one person is fighting for it. I hope you understand that sometimes, to truly love someone, we must let them go." Her words hit Ethan like a thunderbolt, but it was the silence in their empty home that truly broke him. The absence of Maya's laughter, the untouched dinner table, and the faint scent of her favorite perfume lingering in the air made him realize how much of her he had taken for granted. At night, he lay awake, replaying every moment he had dismissed her efforts, every time he chose work over her. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his own ambition crushing him. Not because of its demands, but because of what it had cost him. Each painting depicted a moment from their story, their first meeting, their dance in the rain, and the joyful early days of their marriage. Realizing he had lost the most important part of his life, Ethan made a decision he had never thought possible. He stepped away from his empire. He enrolled in an art class at Georgetown, where he struggled to hold a brush steady, his fingers more accustomed to keyboards than canvases. One evening, he found himself sitting in a quiet gallery, staring at a painting of cherry blossoms. For the first time, he understood what Maya had tried to show him all those years: the beauty in stillness, the depth in imperfection. Each stroke on the canvas seemed to whisper to him, reminding him of what he had lost and what he needed to fight for. After months of searching, Ethan finally received an important lead. Maya was hosting an exhibition in Montreal. Without hesitation, he booked a flight to see her. At the exhibition, Ethan's breath caught as he stood before a large painting, a vivid depiction of Washington, D.C. through Maya's eyes. It wasn't just a painting, it was their story, told in vibrant strokes and delicate details. He traced each scene with his eyes: their penthouse balcony, the National Mall where they danced, the cafe where they first met. But it was the final section of the painting that struck him most: a fractured image of two figures reaching for each other, separated by a sea of data and colors. As he turned, his gaze met Maya's across the room. Her eyes held a mixture of surprise, pain, and something else he dared to hope was forgiveness. The gallery, filled with murmurs and soft footsteps, faded into the background as they stood facing each other, the space between them heavy with unspoken words. The painting felt like an unspoken letter from Maya, recounting their story, from the beautiful beginning to the painful cracks that formed over time. When Ethan turned, he saw Maya standing across the gallery. She looked at him, and in their shared gaze, there was a mix of pain, understanding, and a glimmer of hope. Ethan realized that in finding Maya, he had also rediscovered himself. Maya stood across from Ethan in the gallery, the space between them like a delicate line separating the past and the present. The room was quiet, save for the soft murmurs of other visitors. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped toward her. "Maya," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I was wrong. I lost you, and I don't know if I can fix this, but I want to try." Maya looked at him, her eyes searching his. After a pause, she asked, "Ethan, I found myself again when I left you. But what have you done to find yourself?" Ethan began to tell her about the months he spent trying to change. He spoke of the art classes he attended at Georgetown, learning to see the world through her perspective. He described how he had restructured his company, reducing his workload, empowering his leadership team, and creating a culture where people mattered more than numbers. Maya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she guided him through the gallery, explaining her paintings and the stories behind them. She wanted Ethan to see not only how she had grown, but also what she had learned from their love and separation. Eventually, they stopped in front of a particular painting, an image of two figures dancing in the rain, surrounded by numbers and data arranged into blooming cherry blossoms. Maya explained, "This is how I see us now, a blend of your world and mine. But the question is, Ethan, can we truly come back together?" Ethan's reply was earnest. "You're right. We've both changed. But I believe that if we rebuild from the ground up, with respect for who we've become, we can create something even more beautiful." Maya smiled, her expression a mix of hesitation and hope. "If that's the case, let's try. But we're not going back to what was. This has to be a new beginning." That evening, they walked together through the snowy streets of Montreal, sharing stories, dreams, and even the pain they had carried. For the first time in years, they felt like partners instead of two lost souls. Their new beginning wasn't perfect, but it was honest. They set rules for themselves. No phones at dinner, time dedicated to each other's passions, and a reminder that love isn't about control, it's about harmony. They weren't returning to the past. They were moving forward, creating a new chapter in their love story, one that wasn't perfect, but authentic and full of hope. 1 year after the exhibition in Montreal, Ethan and Maya had built an entirely new life together, a harmonious blend of their two worlds. They moved into a loft in Mile End, where the space was divided in two, Maya's bright sunlit art studio on one side and Ethan's sleek modern workspace on the other. Their lives no longer revolved solely around work or art. It revolved around connection. Every Sunday morning, they would stroll through the farmer's market together, selecting fresh ingredients and savoring simple, meaningful moments. Maya, now a celebrated artist, had just launched the biggest exhibition of her career, Digital Blossoms, a seamless fusion of technology and traditional art. Her paintings reflected not only her personal journey, but also the tumultuous yet beautiful love story she shared with Ethan. Ethan had also transformed, mastering the balance between work and life. His company, now headquartered in Canada, had become a model for human-centered innovation. Maya's influence had inspired him to incorporate art into technology, creating products that resonated with people on an emotional level. One morning, as Maya worked on a new painting in her studio, Ethan walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. "What do you think about hanging this in the living room?" he asked, gesturing to her unfinished piece, a vivid, abstract depiction of 2 hands holding each other amidst blooming cherry blossoms. Maya smiled. "Are you sure? It'll break the minimalist vibe of your space." "Sometimes, a little chaos is exactly what makes something perfect," Ethan replied, his eyes full of love. During that time, Maya shared something extraordinary. She was pregnant. Ethan was so overcome with emotion that he was momentarily speechless. After all they had been through, they weren't just building a new life, they were preparing to welcome a new chapter, a family. That evening, they stood together on their balcony, looking out at the twinkling lights of Montreal. Ethan gently wrapped his arms around Maya, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "Life isn't perfect," Maya whispered, "but it's a masterpiece, and we're painting it together." Ethan smiled. "We lost each other once, but now, I'll never let you go again." They hadn't just found each other again, they had learned to love in a new way, honest, hopeful, and enduring. That evening, after Ethan and Maya gazed out at the twinkling lights of Montreal, an unspoken thought lingered in Ethan's mind, something he had never dared to express before. The next morning, while Maya was engrossed in finishing her latest painting in the studio, Ethan left the house earlier than usual, but he didn't head to the office or any meetings. Instead, he found himself at a small jewelry shop tucked away on one of Montreal's cobblestone streets. "I need something truly special," he told the jeweler, his voice filled with quiet determination. "Something that can say all the things I never managed to say, that can mend the mistakes I've made, and that can hold the love I want to protect forever." The jeweler smiled knowingly. After hearing Ethan's story, she suggested a hand-engraved bracelet adorned with a delicate cherry blossom charm, a symbol of renewal and enduring love. Beneath the charm, she engraved a message in small, elegant letters: "For every season, for every storm, I choose you." That evening, Ethan returned home with the small box in hand. Maya was in the kitchen preparing dinner, her face glowing even in the simplicity of the moment. "I have something for you," Ethan said, stepping closer. He opened the box to reveal the sparkling bracelet, the cherry blossom charm catching the light. Maya stood in silence for a moment, her hand gently tracing the charm. "In?" she asked, her voice filled with surprise and emotion. "It's a promise," Ethan said, his tone steady and warm, "that no matter what happens, through the beautiful springs or the hardest storms, I will always choose you." Maya couldn't stop the tears that welled up in her eyes. She wrapped her arms around Ethan, feeling the depth of his sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not for the bracelet, but for learning how to love me the way I needed to be loved." That evening, as they sat together by candlelight, the bracelet sparkled on Maya's wrist, a quiet reminder of their shared promise. Their love was no longer just a story of the past or a dream for the future. It was a choice they made every single day.